Hello and welcome to this edition of WION Climate Tracker. I am Gambhir. Before we get started, a quick look at what's lined up for you on the show.
There are police officials, there are rescue officials wearing their life jackets. The government by and large is helping people being relocated to safer spots. What you see behind me is all water.
Pakistan is facing one of the worst monsoon seasons this year. Unprecedented rainfall has brought 1/3 of the country underwater. Just to give you a better sense of what's happening on the ground, have a look at these images on your screen. The one with large parts of farmland that was taken on the 24th of March, that was much before the monsoon season began in Pakistan. The images showing the green belt completely inundated, and that's a recent picture. These set of satellite images showing the devastation along the Indus River, as well as some cities in the Punjab province. Here's a look at some numbers now. According to Pakistan's National Disaster Management Authority, over 1,000 people have lost their lives since June, and this number is likely to go higher as the worst of the rainfall is yet to arrive. Over 1,500 citizens have sustained injuries, and over 33 million people have been affected across the country, which means 1 in every 7th Pakistani has been impacted by the ongoing monsoon. And coming to the infrastructure now, the floods have so far fully destroyed over 300,000 houses and partially damaged close to 700,000 houses. Meanwhile, the livestock lost standing at a little over 720,000.
او دا روډي زموږ ویوړو دا کلش پلانټ چې دا زموږ ویوړو او مزید زموږ د کلی ته نورم خطر ده کدا یو بلاک تی ویول نور مزید لګډیره خطر ده ټول کلی په خطر کې ده او د کورونو کې خلکو بیګا چې دا کور کې شپې نه دي کړي ځنه گاونډیانو غریان نور خلکو کرتلی دي.
Rescue and relief operations are being carried out by the Pakistan forces in the affected areas. Have a look at these visuals coming from Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. A boy was stranded in the middle of a heavily flooded stream there when a helicopter came by for a very risky rescue operation. Balochistan is one of the worst hit areas. Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif has announced a $45 million relief fund for the region. He was even seen dropping relief supplies to the residents from a lowly flying helicopter.
वफाक की तरफ से 10 अरब रुपए की ग्रांट का मैं ऐलान कर रहा हूँ और एनडीए में मिलकर जनाब चीफ मिनिस्टर साहब से अपने उनकी हुकूमत से मिलकर यह प्लान तैयार करेगी।
Meanwhile, southern Sindh province is bracing for a fresh deluge from the swollen rivers in the north. Officials have warned that torrents of water are expected to reach Sindh in the next few days. The fate of hundreds of thousands of people in Sindh lies largely with a 90-year-old colonial-era barrage which directs the flow of water from the Indus River. If the ages-old Sukur barrage fails to control the river's flow, experts say a catastrophe is bound to happen.
हमारे पास और भी एक बड़ा तूफान हमारे ऊपर आ रहा है। वो जो दरिया सिंध का पानी आ रहा है उससे भी हमें डर है। भाई कब टूट रहा है, कब छोड़ रहे हैं, क्या कर रहे हैं, अभी कुछ पता नहीं उसका अभी।
The foreign minister has also requested the international community for help. Apart from the government, many residents and non-profit groups are also actively seeking donations.
हम खुद घर उधर पानी में डूब गए हैं। कोई सामान के कैसे तरीके से आएगा? सामान तो हम खुद देखो कैसे क्या हालत में ले आ रहे हैं। कोई हुकूमत का आदमी भी नहीं है, कोई मदद करने वाला भी नहीं है, कोई पूछने वाला भी नहीं है।
Our Pakistan Bureau Chief Anas Malik has been tracking all those developments on the ground. Have a look at this report that he sent us.
Well, more than 1,100 people have lost their lives in floods that have been wreaking havoc across the country. More than 50 million people have now been dislocated or displaced from their own houses as a result of these floods that have taken place all across the country. Not a single side, not a single part of the country is where these floods have not wreaked havoc. We've seen that there is greater damage to livestock as well, and now the international community is responding. We've seen aid coming in from Turkey. We've seen aid coming in from Saudi Arabia. China has pledged some aid which will be in Pakistan very soon. Then the UAE's aid has also arrived in the country because for one very reason, the Pakistani community, the Pakistani government is not equipped to handle a disaster of this scale. And tomorrow on Tuesday, we'll be seeing that a UN pledge will also be held for this flood relief in Pakistan. Anas Malik, Islamabad, Pakistan for WION, World is One.
And for more on this, with us on the broadcast is Harun Akram Gill, who is a climate change campaigner based in Islamabad. Thanks very much for being here with us. If you can start off by sharing with us the latest from on the ground, what is the situation looking like at this point?
Well, the situation is worse than ever. These floods are more catastrophic than the floods we had, which was called super flood in 2010. More than 1,000 deaths have occurred, and the toll is gradually going higher. And 33 million people they have been affected with these floods from one part of the country to the other part. We have lost our crops. Prices are hiking in other areas of the country, which food and vegetables, those are grown in those areas. The fruits, the northern areas were the hub of fruits for Pakistan, and also the nuts. And the central part of the country was responsible for the other cereals, and the Sindh part of the area was responsible for wheat and rice crop. So the things have gone worse. There is I can say the losses are more bigger than the 2000 floods we had.
Right.
Do you have a question?
Yes, Pakistan has sought for international help. Do you think this funding should be in line with the climate compensation that the Western countries already owe to the developing countries?
Well, this has now become a very vibrant question that the countries like Pakistan, India, Nepal, Sri Lanka, these countries they have no share in you can say the least share in GHG emissions, and the countries, the so-called developed countries, they have the larger proportion of GHG emissions. They should compensate these aids. The Pakistani government has appealed from other countries, and other countries like Turkey and US and Germany and others, they have they have shown their grief on the losses, and they have said to give the aid in this regard. This aid must be in alignment, in accordance with the compensation they already have committed. Unfortunately, the compensation, the Global Climate Fund and the other funds, that is not being given to the poor countries properly. Pakistan, now we have larger losses. We have our infrastructure ruined, our crops ruined. We have our people and their cattle. We have lost so many things. So these aids must be aligned to the compensation. The $1 billion funds that had been created on the occasion of COP21 in 2015, the Paris Agreement, Paris Accord, this should be aligned with those compensations.
Right. Harun Akram, thanks very much for being here on the broadcast and sharing those perspectives.
Thank you.
And we're moving on to the United States. In Mississippi, record-breaking rainfall there threatens to flood streets and creep into the homes within the next 2 days as the state braces for a deluge. The governor of Mississippi had declared a state of emergency on Saturday, also urging the people in the flood zones to evacuate if necessary. According to the National Weather Service, the Pearl River is expected to crest on Monday at several feet over what is considered to be a major flood stage. And as the global climate crisis continues to fuel extreme weather events, the state's current flood warnings estimate the floodwaters to reach as high as 35.8 feet in certain parts. The state has deployed 126,000 sandbags and put search and rescue teams on standby. The Mississippi Emergency Management Agency has deployed drones to assess the water levels along the Pearl River. While the river levels are not expected to reach the same levels as 2020, officials have instructed the residents to prepare for the floods by taking images of their property and locating their critical documents. The mayor of Mississippi's capital has urged the residents in the flood zones to pack enough belongings to get them through an evacuation that may last several days. He has said that the law enforcement officers will increase patrols to protect the property. The inundation in Mississippi coming a month after a dozen people lost their lives in Kentucky. This was last month after historic floods left behind a trail of devastation. Meanwhile, a triple-digit heat wave in the Pacific Northwest killed 4 last month. Let's go across to China now, which is in the midst of its worst heat wave on record. Things are starting to look bleak for the country's energy sector, and in response to the high demand for electricity, coal power plants are being fired up across the country. It's not just demand for air conditioning and coolers, but the coal is also filling the gap created by a drought-driven catastrophe. Hydropower plants are failing to create power due to water flowing extremely low. Have a look at these visuals. This is a normally filled lake with water at this time of the year. It's now exposed to large cracked beds. This Poyang Lake is known as the kidney of the region because its water plays a crucial role in the central Jiangxi province. The shrinkage has impacted shipping and drinking water supplies in the area, and this testifies to the dramatic impact of a long drought and heat wave that have gripped the country. The Chinese province of Sichuan has downgraded its emergency energy supply measure, which means after weeks of outage, power has been restored in some of the factories. The region is home to major auto manufacturers, including Toyota and Honda. Apple iPhone manufacturer is also restarting work after a brief lull. And in unexpected respite, authorities have forecast intense rainfall in the region for the next 10 days. The Meteorological Association has issued an orange alert for Sichuan and Shanxi provinces. Parts of China have recorded their longest continuous period of high temperatures. The country has received 40% less rainfall this time. According to reports, this is the lowest since 1961. There is no relief from heat across China as temperatures are frequently hitting 49 degrees Celsius in many places. Chinese officials have warned that the country may miss its 5.5% growth target for the year. Its economic growth has slowed down to 0.4% due to the climate crisis. A video from England is doing the rounds on the internet. It shows sewage-like water being pumped into the sea off the coast of East Sussex. After a lot of backlash, the Southern Water released a statement saying that it was not sewage water but actually rainwater and debris from the drains. Have a look at these visuals to find out more. Let's now talk about products like lotions, perfumes, makeup, shampoos. Generally, using such products comes at a cost, which is an environmental cost. And every year, millions of beauty products end up in the landfills. And that is because of the lack of sustainable packaging of these products. So some Australian beauty brands are now taking it upon themselves to make a change. Our next report telling you more.
The beauty industry generates more than 120 billion units of packaging every year. And most of the packaging of these beauty products end up in landfills. In Australia itself, 10,000 tons of cosmetic waste like this are dumped in landfills every year. When in reality, all of the raw materials that go into the packaging can be reused over and over again. So Australia has now found a new recycling program. Some brands have come up with a scheme. It is called the Take Back Scheme, which allows consumers to return their used or empty containers to stores. They are then sorted and processed into waste streams and eventually get recycled into other products like concrete or glass replacements for building materials. Some Australian beauty brands are also considering recycling difficult items like nail polish and aerosols. One such company is called the Close the Loop, which was recently awarded $685,000 government grant for a cosmetics recycling trial. Various other Australian beauty retailers like Mecca, David Jones and Olay have also partnered with recycling international company called TerraCycle. But there are now questions arising on as to how much product ends up in landfill compared to how useful the recycled products actually are.
There definitely is, some skepticism and mistrust out there, that businesses may be greenwashing. And so while I think most businesses really are trying to do the right thing, being transparent about how much is being returned, what it's being turned into.
Some brands have also discontinued manufacturing few products only because they could not recycle its packaging. One such brand is Liz Agresta's beauty brand called the Australian Glow, which recently discontinued a popular aerosol fake tanning product.
Globally, it accounts to 25% of our sales, but the reason for discontinuing the product is because our values are to be a sustainable brand.
And with global regulations pushing for a greener future, beauty buyers are forced to think of a two-way solution: how to sell the best product, yet in a sustainable way. Bureau Report, WION. World is One.
If you are in the UAE and looking for a cooling retreat for your pet dogs as the fierce temperatures continue to mount, increasingly becoming a health hazard, an air-conditioned gymnasium is providing Abu Dhabi with an indoor workout option for your four-legged friends. Take a look.
Harsh summers of the Gulf make it impossible for dogs to go out for a playtime. This is when gym comes as an aid for the canines to stay fit.
الطقس حاليا بالصيف تحديدا الحراره بتوصل لل 40 45 اللي هي مش صحيه للكلاب بشكل عام. فنحن بنفضل طبعا لصحه الكلب انه يكون عم يتمرن ويتحرك، وحاليا هالفكره هي الحل الانسب انه يكون عندنا نحن اندورز وتريدميل على سرعه الكلب مش على سرعه انت بتحددها اوتوماتيكيا.
The gym staff secure the dogs with a harness on the adapted running machines. The treadmills are also equipped with glass barriers to stop the dogs from falling and can readjust their speed to match up to their pace. The gym is seeing a surge in popularity as the vets advise pet owners against walking them outside in summer because of the risk of a heat stroke. It charges $7.5 for a half-hour run on these special treadmills.
طبيعة مناسبة للحيوان في مكان اندور مكيف، درجة حرارة معينة مدروسة. الكلب بعد ما يركض يخلص يكون محتاج لأكل، محتاج لشراب ماي، فرحنا نوفر له كل شيء هذا. فالكلب يجي هنا يطلع الطاقة السلبية اللي فيه، يتمرن، لأن هم في طبيعتهم يمشون مينيمم 3 كيلو في اليوم. فما بالك ان انت اليوم كصاحب كلب ما تمشي كلبك الا دقيقة ودقيقتين.
The Gulf is among the regions most at risk from global warming. Several cities in the region are facing the prospects of becoming uninhabitable by the end of the century. Temperatures soar past 45 degrees Celsius during daytime and can remain well above 40 degrees Celsius even past midnight. This forces the public to go into partial hibernation, staying cloistered in air-conditioned homes and workplaces. Bureau Report, WION, World is One.
And on that note, it's a wrap on this edition of WION Climate Tracker. We're taking a break at this point. Stay tuned to WION World is One. Thanks very much for watching.